So you're reading Harry Potter for the first time. You're 11. You're sitting on a comfy couch and you're just at the chapter where Harry meets Ron and they become friends on the Hogwarts Express. Harry buys tons of sweets and you are just living it up with Harry, wishing that your letter would come too and that you could just jump onto the Hogwarts Express and pig out on all of the delicious junk food. But then all of a sudden Harry gets the chocolate frog card. The frog hops away, but the card is Albus Dumbledore. And it says this: currently the headmaster of Hogwarts, considered by many the greatest wizard of modern times, Dumbledore is particularly famous for his defeat of the Dark Wizard Grindelwald in 1945, for his discovery of the 12 uses of dragon's blood, and his work on alchemy with his partner Nicholas Flamel. Professor Dumbledore enjoys chamber music and 10-pin bowling. As an 11-year-old, that is cool, but you quickly skip past that and keep reading. But I have to tell you, on every single reread of Harry Potter that I've done, I always sit and pause on this little detail, because I am dying to know what the 12 uses of dragon's blood are. So today, we're going to talk about that. Now, we don't have that many confirmed uses of the dragon's blood because Rowling hasn't really written about that, but we do have a few confirmed uses of what dragon's blood actually is. After that, we are just going to stab in the dark until we kind of come up with more theories about it. Some of these theories I found on Reddit too. And while I don't think it's the most legitimate thing in the world, I actually think my favorite theory of all time was thrown out by a now deleted Reddit user that said, dragon's blood can actually be used to make the absolute best nacho cheese in the world. It has the perfect amount of spice, 1 drop for mild, 2 for medium, and 4 for spicy, and creates the optimal consistency, just thin enough to spread and adequately cover all of the meat and chips without being runny. It also keeps the cheese from cooling too much. It always stays a few degrees away from too hot to eat. I love that so much. So kick back with your nachos as we talk about the 12 uses of dragon's blood and what they could possibly be. But let's start with a quick precursor on all of this. Sorry, this is kind of necessary, but also a cool fact. Dragon's blood is actually 2 things. The first is the obvious. It is the blood of a dragon. The second is actually a tree called the dragon's blood tree. This is a Sakutra tree, more commonly known, and its sap is called dragon's blood because it's red and kind of thick. So there's your fun fact for the day. And while I love plants and I think they're great, I think in the wizarding world they are definitely talking about option 1 and not the Sakutra plant. So while there are a lot of muggle uses for dragon's blood sap, we're going to be talking about the uses of dragon's blood of an actual dragon. So let's talk about the confirmed uses. There are 3 to 5 confirmed uses depending on how you look at it. Let's talk about this. The first one is split into 2, and I'm going to keep them in one category though. Cleaning. Rowling is actually confirmed to have written a letter to someone saying that it is a great oven cleaner as well as a spot cleaner. Oven cleaner was said to be the 12th use of dragon's blood, and I can just imagine Albus Dumbledore with all his notes around his apartment, and he's looking like an absolute mess with all his research strewn over the apartment. And he has vials of dragon's blood everywhere because he's researching this. And while he's baking, maybe he's making some cookies because he just needs to keep studying, he accidentally knocks over one of the vials as he opens his oven door. And frustrated, he uses Scourgify to wash the dragon's blood out. And what do you know? The one spot in the oven that he had never been able to clean with Scourgify was finally gone. And with that victory, Albus Dumbledore wrapped up his research. It was supposed to be the 11 uses for dragon's blood, but that 12th was just the one that really mattered. But oven cleaning was the number 12th use for dragon's blood. And as a subsection for number 12, I'm going to add spot cleaner to the list here because I don't want to make 2 of these uses kind of cleaning-ish. Dragon's blood is just an excellent all-around cleaner. Number 11, because we're kind of counting up now. It's a potion ingredient. This is a fairly obvious one, to be honest, but this one could kind of be split into a few different uses as well. But we're just going to have number 11 be the use of a potion's ingredient. It's a known ingredient in the Wolfsbane potion, so every time Lupin needs to drink the potion, he also needs to ingest dragon's blood. Now I can imagine that the Wolfsbane potion isn't the only potion to include dragon's blood in it, but this use is also going to help us theorize on what some of the other uses are. But before we theorize, let's talk about number 10 and the last fully confirmed use of dragon's blood. A wart remover. Now, are you tired of those stubby, unsightly warts ruining your magical look? Tried every potion, every charm, even at Muriel's guaranteed toad wart tonic with no success? Well, Worry no more. Introducing Dragon's Blood, the most powerful all-natural wart remover in the wizarding world. That's right, Dragon's Blood. It isn't just for potions anymore, it's the quick, easy, and painless way to say goodbye to warts forever. Other methods are slow and painful and downright dangerous. But with Dragon's Blood, just a single drop applied to the affected area and poof, your warts vanish like Evanesco. Wow, it's like magic. Oh wait, it is magic. Ah, yes, Dragon's Blood, the very same substance used by great alchemists. If only young wizards knew how truly versatile it is. But wait, there's more. Order now and you'll receive a travel-sized bottle, perfect for those on-the-go magical mishaps. Call 1-800-DRAGON-BLOOD now. Limited supply. Side effects may include minor fire breathing. Do not use near flammable objects. Not responsible for accidental transformation into a half-dragon. Don't wait. Ditch the warts and embrace the wonder of Dragon's Blood today. I should have used this years ago. Wow, that was a lot. I'm sorry. That was just a tangent of writing an infomercial for Dragon's Blood, and I got a bit carried away. And now I kind of want to make an actual commercial for that. Anyway, yeah, Dragon's Blood removes warts. This was confirmed in a now dead linked video that I cannot find anymore, but I also trust the Harry Potter Reddit community is always right on those things. I don't actually do that, but on nerdy stuff like this, I think that they're perfect. So it removes your pesky warts. Now let's get into some of the easier theorizing before we get into some of the absolute stabs in the dark. Number 9. Let's talk about the Lupin ingestion of Dragon's Blood. We know it's used in the Wolfsbane potion, but is it used in that potion in order to counteract some already existing thing in the body? Or is it used more of an ingredient to make it more palatable or milder for the body? Or maybe it offsets another ingredient in the potion. I kind of tend to think that this would do the prior, the very first one, attacking something in the body. Almost like a chemotherapy, to be honest. I don't ever think that Dragon's Blood is really straight up ingested in the wizarding world, but I think if it was, or if it was put into like a wizard's bloodstream, that it would act as a sort of army, attacking everything in its path and killing most of the bad things in there before it dissipated. I don't know anything about the medical argument for that. I mean, we're talking about dragons, so it doesn't matter that much. But I just have a non-educated opinion on this. I mean, Lupin's hair seems to be graying at age 33, and I know plenty of stressed 33-year-olds that are going slightly gray. But for Lupin, I think it might just be attributed to his ingestion of Dragon's Blood. I mean, gray back? I mean, he probably never really drank Dragon's Blood or had Wolfsbane, but I don't know. I was just going to make another infomercial for Touch of Grey using Dragon's Blood, so just be thankful I didn't do that. Anyway, Use 9 could potentially be some kind of medicine for a last-ditch effort to heal someone, like wizarding chemotherapy. Number 8 is a bit more reasoned. There are only 2 major times that we see Dragon's Blood pop up in the books, other than being talked about in conjunction with Albus finding the uses for it. And in one of those instances, Hagrid is putting a dragon stake on his face in order to quell the swelling and cuts and bruises on his face. Now, most likely this is just because the stake is cold and it feels good, but also there's an interesting note here about how the stake looked green and that the blood wasn't red. In the other instances we see dragon blood in the movies, and the only other instance in the book that it mentions dragon blood, it just seems pretty clear that it has to be red. So what is this aged dragon's blood here doing? I think there's another use that it could possibly be some sort of antiseptic. This kind of goes hand in hand with number 9, but a bit more of a topical one than an ingested one. So I kind of theorize here that the 8th use of dragon's blood is an antiseptic because Hagrid uses it in the books as what I think is an antiseptic. Which leads us to our other use of dragon blood in the books, with Slughorn when he is hiding. Now I want to point out 2 things because this theory might get a bit wild. But what's the fun in coming up with boring theories? You know, actually the boring theory is that the blood is just used as a substitute for human blood in just disguising things, kind of like pig's blood being the closest to human blood in the Muggle world. Anyway, I think that's a boring theory. My real theory here is the 2 sections of Half-Blood Prince that it talks about this. In the first, Dumbledore learns that dragon's blood is smeared on the walls. "What kind of blood was that, incidentally?" asked Dumbledore over the loudly chiming of the newly unsmashed grandfather clock. "On the walls? Dragon," shouted the wizard called Horace, as, with a deafening grinding and tinkling, the chandelier screwed itself back onto the ceiling. And prior to that, Dumbledore doesn't use magic to reveal where Slughorn is, but he actually pokes him in the belly. This was the prior section in the books that it talks about this. "Maybe there was a fight and they dragged him off, Professor," Harry suggested. trying not to imagine how badly wounded a man would have to be to leave those stains spattered halfway up the halls. I don't think so, said Dumbledore quietly, peering behind an overstuffed armchair lying at its side. You mean he's still here somewhere? Yes. And without warning, Dumbledore swooped, plunging the tip of his wand into the seat of an overstuffed chair, which he yelled, Ouch! Good evening, Horace, said Dumbledore, straightening up again. Harry's jaw dropped. Where a split second before there had been an armchair, there now crouched an enormously fat, bald old man, who was massaging his lower belly and squinting up at Dumbledore with an aggrieved and watery eye. There was no need to stick the wand in that hard, he said gruffly, clambering to his feet. It hurt. Now, I find it interesting that Dumbledore seemed to know that there was some kind of strange work at play in the dragon's blood. Being the one who founded the 12 uses of it, I think that Dumbledore maybe smelled it before locating Slughorn, because potentially, this might be a stretch, but I think dragon's blood might give you the temporary ability to shield yourself from longer range magic, like it would if you were a dragon being hit with stunning spells. It's not only the hide, but the blood that keeps the dragon safe. Because why would Dumbledore walk over to Slughorn and poke him in the belly like the Pillsbury Doughboy? I mean, that just seems kind of excessive and weird. So I think if you have dragon's blood splayed over some surface, that there is some protection that it affords you for any spells that you were attacked at by a longer range, thus giving you an advantage of kind of being able to counterattack the spell a bit easier. It's a weird one, but I think this could be pretty valid. Now, number 5 is a sub-theory on the prior one. Perhaps dragon's blood is something that can also aid in the transfiguration of something or someone. Transforming into a chair is no easy task, and while Slughorn is a professor and capable of that kind of transfiguration, he really doesn't seem like the type that he would just leave something like that to his magical ability alone. He seems like he would carry all sorts of remedies and potions with him to aid him in the ability to do magic. So while he used it to paint a grim scene in the Half-Blood Prince, he also could have used it in order to help him transfigure into a chair just a bit easier. Now we're entering into the realm of fully theorizing. There are no more book examples of dragon's blood, but I scoured some of the Reddit examples as well as coming up with a few of my own theories. And here are the 5 remaining uses of dragon's blood that I believe. Number 5, the forging of stronger weaponry. I loved in Chamber of Secrets how a goblin made objects imbibe the things that made it stronger. In that case, it was basilisk venom. But I also cannot help but think that goblins 100% do this when they forge weapons. The basis is that wizards cannot really recreate something of the pieces that they make. And the second is that goblins have no problem mistreating animals, as we see in the final book with dragons. As terrible as it might sound, I can imagine that they would have some kind of slay dragon, and they would just kind of obtain its blood in the forgery of their weapons. They likely need them as well as they weren't allowed wands, so they need weapons that were comparable to wands that would help them in battle. Perhaps this is the reason that Griphook can also recognize the real sword from the fake. It may be because there's some dragon blood smell still attached to it, or something like that. But I definitely think it enhances the strength of magical ability, or it helps the power of a weapon of some kind. Number 4. This is the most boring one, I think, besides the oven cleaner. But I think it actually prevents burns or keeps something fireproof. Obviously, a dragon needs to have some kind of fireproofing ability, otherwise they just blow it from the inside out. So maybe the blood is what actually quells the fire. And if you have dragon's blood or a shield with dragon's blood smeared on it, it actually prevents you from getting burned. Unlike in House of Dragon, where the people are incinerated when the dragon blood rains on them. A bit different, and a bit of a happier ending over here in the Harry Potter realm. Number 3. I think it also is a key ingredient in alchemy for the creating of the elixir of life. It almost seems like this would be the first thing that Dumbledore would discover about the use of the blood. Had Nicholas Flamel actually created the elixir and used dragon's blood, and being that Dumbledore worked with Flamel, he likely knew it as a key ingredient in whatever the alchemy that he did to create the stone and then the elixir. I don't really know how to connect all the dots on this one, but it just seems logical that it was used in some form of alchemy here. Number 2. This one is dark, but I think dragon's blood is the key ingredient in making a specific kind of ink. the very ink in the quill that Dolores Umbridge used on Harry Potter in Order of the Phoenix. I think dragon's blood can generally be used as ink that holds more magical properties. It's kind of like the invisible ink that gets used in Chamber of Secrets or the non-cheating quills that are used. But I don't know, ink just seems to play an important role in this entire story. And that specific quill is said to be inkless, but I am convinced that dragon's blood is in that in some capacity because it hurts the victim in some way. Now, I said dragon's blood has an antiseptic property in prior use, but this is kind of the counter example of that. But I think if you curse this blood, you can also use it to burn and harm another individual. So I tend to think that Umbridge used dragon's blood in that quill of hers, and that was the key ingredient for why it burned the back of Harry's hand so much. It was that she kind of did some kind of dark spell in order to make that happen. And the number one use of dragon's blood is that it is somewhere in the realm of dark magic and ancient rituals. It's a really generic one, but I think that the use of dragon's blood may lie in the realm of more of this dark magic, and it's just harnessing its magical powers and properties for weird enchantments that happen throughout the story. Throughout its history, blood has just seemed to be a key ingredient in forbidden spells, and dragon's blood, being one of the most magically charged substances, could amplify incantations beyond their natural limit. Some people on Reddit actually believe that it's been used to make the ancient blood-binding pacts, or unbreakable curses, or even resurrection attempts. While most wizards are afraid of that kind of stuff, there's no denying that dragon's blood holds secrets that even the most skilled spellcasters have yet to fully unravel. And here is the 13th extra reason that I think was the unpublished reason for dragon blood that Dumbledore knew to never publish because of its danger. And it's totally unconfirmed. But I actually think that dragon's blood is a potential Horcrux killing substance. And I want to make this clear. In my head, I just invented a Horcrux killer with 4 substances because it cannot be so simple as just dragon blood kills Horcruxes. Because surely, Hermione and Dumbledore would know that and would order a bottle and destroy Horcruxes with no problem. But I think that there's a trifecta of 3 different animals that we know, and then one that's another different form of an animal. Said that weird, but bear with me here. And it all has to do with combining the most powerful wand cores. Now, this theory ties in a lot of the other ones and is why I mainly think that dragon blood is actually more of a balm and a healing agent than it is a tool for destruction. Because 3 of the 4 animals here are the 3 most important wand cores. And all of these 3 creatures have healing elements to them. Well, 2 do, and I'm theorizing that the 3rd does as well. But the first is a phoenix. The tears of a phoenix can heal anything. I thought about this question way more than I care to admit, but what would happen if a phoenix tear fell onto a Horcrux? Would it heal? Or would it counteract it? I kind of think it's an interesting question. The next creature is a unicorn. And this creature can keep you alive even if you are an inch from life. Yes, you sacrifice some of your own life by using it, but it is also some kind of healer, at least in some capacity. The very fact that it will keep you alive to me shows that it has to be in some capacity some kind of healing agent. And the next is dragon's blood. The dragon heartstring being a powerful wand core, I think this blood also offers more healing than it does destruction. And the combination of these 3 objects is incredibly powerful just by themselves, but the 4th object that it needs is the wand core of the most powerful wand on Earth. Thestral hair from the Elder Wand. And so the final ingredient behind killing a Horcrux is thestral blood. It's a pretty sad state as well because you would need to kill or at least in some way obtain the blood of these 4 animals. I believe Dumbledore knew that but didn't want to kill these animals or even mess with that in any way in order to destroy the Horcrux. So he left all of that out of his research entirely and the trio went the sword route. But all of this is wild theorizing, so a lot of this might be wrong. Obviously a lot of it is wrong. But let me know what you think of these theories and what you think of this video. Make sure you like it and please subscribe too. We publish all sorts of nerdy and fun content and I think you really like the majority of it. So make sure you hit that sub button. But anyway, let me know what you think in the comments and I'll see you in the next one.